universe!
Hello, universe.
I stole your line.
No, it's a good line. It's good. It fits it somehow. Maybe that's a title. I don't know. We were going to go with Lonely Ohm. Maybe that's the title.
Hello, universe.
Hello, universe.
Well, today we are...
excited to welcome a new friend to the universe. Who's an old friend, new friend?
An amazing person named Jennifer Meyers, who we cannot wait to talk to. And she's taught karma projects for us, and also, interestingly, the first time we met her was that she was interviewing us.
We're excited to interview her today, learn all about what's going on. She's a real woman out there making big changes in the world, and so we're really excited.
Hi, friends! I see Gina, I see Manny.
We're gone, indeed.
Manny is in Greece. What are you doing on Instagram, Manny? That's a little too supportive, I think.
We have Instagram in Greece.
And here's Jennifer.
All right.
And
now through the magic of technology.
I know, this is my favorite part. Who would have known?
At least.
Hello from Greece. Opa. We miss you guys.
All right. First child, this one. Yay! Wonderful. How are you?
What's going on? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's like mowing Fridays, so people are like mowing lawns here, and I'm just like, yeah. So I hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah, you're good. I call that the siren song of the suburbs. The never-ending blowers and mowers and that come and go. But yeah, it's kind of
all
fun.
the time.
How have you been?
The time. Good. I feel like this September, I'm like, in a good way. A lot of good opportunities, a lot of projects. So I'm just trying to take one beat at a time, one breath at a time, and just, powering through. They're all wonderful things. Good. It's just all wonderful things all happening at once.
I think the world feels that way right now a little bit, right?
Well,
yeah.
But I was also going to say, to reflect back to you, that since I have known you, I have felt that has been a state of yours of like, I don't think it's unusual that everybody, including United We Home, isn't kind of like, hey, Jennifer, can we have some here? Can you come here? So it's no surprise to me that there's so many doors opening. I feel like it's kind of always been the aura that surrounds you.
Aw, thanks. I mean, my biggest thing right now is to kind of let some things go that no longer serve me. So that's my work that I'm trying to do right now, is kind of just say, okay, I've outgrown this. And I now need to kind of step away from this in order to invite more in. And I'm not doing a good job of it right now.
I was going to say, what is that process like for you? How do you let go? Is there a ritual involved, or is it sort of a mental process, a feeling?
I mean, it's a couple things. So I think for me, like I have like this mindset of like high achieving, I'm going to like go until the wheels fall off, rest when I die, those. Yeah, right. Yeah. And what's starting to happen is like the burnouts become more frequent, right? When you don't really listen to your body, you're not listening to your mind, you're not listening to your spirit guides, universe, and all the things that are telling you to like slow down, calm down. So, yeah. When you start to kind of not listen to them, what's the old saying? When you argue with reality, you will suffer.
That's a good saying. I haven't heard that before, but I like that a lot. When you argue with reality, you will suffer. Yes.
And that's like accepting that truth, right? That satya. It's like, okay, this is right in front of you. You're not accepting the truth, and therefore you will suffer. So, it's a lot of deep reflection, a lot of meditation. A lot of it has come from like internal stuff. Really kind of saying, oh, if I leave this behind, people are going to be disappointed, right? Or like, I committed to this and I wanted this to be a forever thing, and I'm noticing that this kind of chapter is closing and I have shame around it, right? So there's like a lot of things that I'm working out in my brain to come to a place of peace in order to kind of let that go. So, it's all part of the work. So yeah, it's
So
hard.
aware. It's great.
Yeah, I just wanted to say actually thank you for that like real authenticity, because I know like that's
and clarity.
It's one of those things that I think so many of us are experiencing in our own lives, and it's so easy for us to feel alone in that. But to just hear you just so eloquently speak to like the guilt and the shame and the fear of disappointing others and all of that, it was so refreshing for me to feel not alone. So thank you for just like sharing that.
Oh, thanks. And again, it's really, really hard. I'm not good at it at all. I think it's just me dropping that external validation that I'm looking to seek, and then concentrate on that internal validation that I need to seek.
Bam.
It's always
Podcast is for me here. I just needed this so bad. Good Lord. This is what we've been dealing with all morning. Like, just talk all the things you're talking about. Like, what is the future of this organization? How is this going to look? Like, what are we going to do? What do we need to let go of? And what portions can we move forward with? And how on earth do we move forward in this world that continues to shift under us all the time? I feel like I have no idea where anything is going. I mean, we did like the whole 1 month, 3 month, 9 month, year, 3 year, 5 year. It's like you get out to like a year and you're like, I mean, maybe if we can do that, it's just wild. It's been the craziest time. And, Ginny acknowledged today, and I think it's really true, we are actually, our generation, for the most part, had pretty smooth sailing. Like the 90s was good. And then now we are facing it, like every generation has before us. Like, we're really having that thing that they're going to write about in the history books.
Oh, for sure. I always say like the millennials and like the generation prior to that, like we've seen so much, like we've experienced so much than the generations prior to us, and even the generations that are coming under us. Like we've been exposed to so much, and I always speak in bumper stickers. I love quotes and bumper stickers, and people are like, you really speak in bumper stickers? I'm like, that's my love
Maybe
language.
That's a side business.
Side hustle.
Yeah. That's a side hustle.
Yeah, and they always say like when you plan and the universe laughs. Like, you ever heard that expression?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's like ha ha ha, you're planning things, ha ha. And that was like the biggest theme of 2020, right? It's just like the universe was like, okay, we're gonna laugh because here we're gonna throw this, couple things your way and really have you practice your dharma in a very interesting, unique way ever than before. So,
but do you ever question who's laughing? Because that's my laughing.
Yeah, I always try to give it a name.
Me.
Yeah, I give like my many different like personalities a name. I give like my shame a name, and I'd be like, oh, there goes, not anything against people named Bridget. I'm like, oh, Bridget just keeps talking to me, and and then my ego has a name, like Sasha, like, oh, Sasha, I can't talk to you right now. You're my ego. Yeah, so I like personify them. They're all part of me, but I personify them to be like, all right, girl, we gotta calm you down.
And how does that help you? I mean, that's very interesting. I think that's really cool. So you personify it, and then I guess sort of you talk to Sasha.
Yeah, like it's just like being aware of it, right? Because like I think when we ignore the different sides of us, like that's when we kind of get into some trouble, because I always say to people, it's so easy to self-love the good parts of ourselves, right? It's so easy to love that part of ourselves. And then the other side is like, we don't really love the shadow parts of ourselves, right? We kind of want to like suppress them down and really start to raise, the good parts of ourselves, which is easy to do. But once we start not paying attention to our shadow parts, that's when we kind of get into some interesting realities. So, I'm all about acknowledging my shadow parts. I'm all about acknowledging those, and a way for me to acknowledge those is kind of like, hey girl, like, hey Sasha, what's going on, ego? Okay, here's vanity coming through, I check them sometimes. I don't put them down, but I definitely them and say like, okay, I recognize that you're here. I recognize that you are here to either test me, push me, or pull me, or drive me to a certain direction that I need to go in my path. So I'm all about like acknowledging them, and I kind of give them like little names where they're a part of me, but I acknowledge them in a funny way, I guess you could say.
It's so cool. What you just said at the end kind of sparks something for me, because we always say like, we're not our ego, right? You're not this thing. You're not this shell or whatever. We separate. And in a weird, in a cool way, you've done that, right? You've sort of like taken your ego and given it this name that is not yours. That's really cool. I never even thought of experiencing it like that, because when you can name it like that and you can take it as this thing, it doesn't feel like you. It feels, and it also feels like something you can interact with.
Exactly. I have conversations with it all the time.
This is why we do this.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
We always think we don't do this for anybody else, really. Like, this just Matt and I, like, we just want to talk to you.
Talk to cool people.
And we learn great stuff, and other people are listening too. Couldn't get better, right? But that's amazing.
I love that. Did you learn that? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It was like a mix of things, you know, like it just came to, so like, I'm like that weird yogi that like walks in the park and like hugs a tree. Like, I just feel like the onlookers that pass me, they're like, what is this weird chick doing? And I'm like, press my palms up against it and like leaning against the trunk. And I'm like, give me wisdom tree. You've been here longer than I have, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and sometimes I'll just like cry and I'm like, oh, this is this ego coming through, like hardcore, like, what are you talking about? And then I would give it a name at that point. And it's just so interesting that kind of happens. Like, anytime on my walks, and, you know, that self-doubt that seeps through. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, self-doubt Sally, what's up, girl? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to show me? What work do I need to continue to do to move past the self-doubt into self-realization and confidence? So it's all those things. Yeah. Like I always say, like, I ignored the shadows for such a long period of time. I was a proficient professor at ignoring my shadows for many years. And then my shadows started to run my life. What do they always say? It's like, when you ignore your triggers act out. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. And like self-doubt was acting out. Yeah. So it's crazy. So I had to kind of just say, all right, I'm aware of you. I acknowledge you. I see you. You're here to teach me and show me some things. And, you know, I'm here to be kind of a student to whatever you want to show me. And hopefully we can work together to kind of bridge this gap a little bit. So, yeah.
I'm really loving this. And as I'm listening to you, I'm having this wondering, you know, you've taught Karma Project for us, and, you know, I'm wondering if this wouldn't be an interesting way to think about perhaps clarifying the experience of awareness versus like thinking mind, and, you know, like all the different things the thinking mind can be doing, and that we can be conscious of our mind doing all these different things. And it's kind of, that was an idea that took me like years to kind of like be like, oh, and I'm always wondering how we can like make it more like easy to unwrap. And I'm wondering if this could be a fun exercise to try out in the service work, kind of like a shortcut to be like, if you just try, even just for that time, to like give a different name to like the thoughts that are going to come up, and allow yourself the awareness to be who you are. And this like to like not be who you are for this moment in time. I love this idea.
Yeah. It's fun. It's like a fun little exercise. And of course you can make it like playful. You can give it different names, and it's the names in which you want to come up with. And it's just like a fun
those
way.
Are kind of revealing, right?
Yeah.
I was like, while Jenny was talking, I'm sorry, I was kind of thinking about like mine and like different my issues, and like I feel like Tony is in there, and like
yeah.
something like as soon as I thought that, I was like, why Tony? So I just think it's cool that you can even explore that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I mean,
you gotta be excited about this.
I have a name for my anger, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's all these different things, and that's okay. You know, they're all part of me. I fully accept them, and, you know, and yeah, and it's just kind of interesting to kind of separate them, but then conjoin them back. Like, you're part of me, but let me separate this and dig into who this person is, and this feeling, and why has it come up, and when did it first get introduced? That's the biggest part. When did you get introduced to this feeling? And you can go way back into childhood. Like, what was your first introduction of self-doubt, Sally? You know what I mean? Like, when did you get, like, when did you guys have that interaction? How does she show up for you? You know, what were the feelings that came up? Yeah, there's a whole litany of things that you can go with it.
It's almost like, how we all talk about like karma. and like that we have these same seeds we all like plant and water all the time, that we think we have all these different thoughts and emotions, but if you look at them, usually each of us have like one or two. It comes down to, for me, it's like, I'm not enough, and we just keep planting them and watering them, and they just keep growing. And it's an interesting way, again, of looking at that idea of like this part of you that's you, but you can get distance from it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into this.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, try it.
We should have a side separate conversation so we can talk about this as some sort of a needed added addition to the training, because that is some really cool thinking.
Yes.
I love this idea of being able to separate it out, talk to Tony.
Light,
and
like
then
Ram Dass always says.
Right,
like,
yeah, it does keep it light.
You know, keep it light. Just be light about it. Don't get so like.
Yeah, don't get so serious. I mean, yeah, it is serious things. And, you know, like one of my yoga teachers always say to me, like, Earth is the planet of work. So we come here to work on ourselves and as a collective. Like, he's like, our souls could have chose any planet on the Earth, on the, you know, entire universe to live. Your soul chose Earth because you are here to work. And I was just like, you know. And you're just like, damn, I'm like, I should have chose Jupiter or Neptune or something. But,
Wait,
yeah.
We did that thing. thing.
Oh, yeah, that's good. It's
we
good.
always do. Whenever we're really excited to talk to somebody, we just get right in there. But this was great, because now who doesn't want to know who Jennifer Myers is? So,
I'm sorry. I'm tangential.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, it's us. We get right on that horse with you, and we're off. We're excited to talk. But really, what better introduction than what you just gave us all to like who you are? And can you just share, even for just Matt and I, who do you consider Jennifer Meyers to be in this world? What are you up to?
I'm getting comfortable with being multi-hyphenated, so that's a big thing. And what I mean by that is I'm trying not to be just one thing, but several things, and being okay with that, and understanding that we have many different facets of us. So, you know, for right now, you know, I'm definitely moving into the space of trying to be this person who is holding space for people. I think that's where a lot of my soul work is going, especially with my projects. And I hope to turn this into something that's my lifelong career. So I'm a podcast host. I host Open Heart Raw Story. And we are working on season 2 right now, which is bananas sandwiches. Like, it's great. And the real crux of what Open Heart Raw Story is basically I have a conversation with another person, and they just kind of give their live autobiography, and we talk about everything that is raw and vulnerable, and nothing is held back. And I'm always in complete gratitude to any of the guests, because they really go into some hard stuff and their trauma, and the list goes on. It goes from, and not to be a trigger warning, but it goes into eating disorders and abuse and parents that were not such great parents as they were growing up, and things that they had to kind of unravel and unwrap. So it kind of starts a little dark, but what I loved about, you know, talking to these people, and the real gut of what we do talk about, is the fact that they were able to unravel that and be their own hero, and being able to kind of get over it. Not to say that the triggers leave, you know, but really focus on the healing part of themselves, and then being able to then kind of give that assistance to another person or to people. So they really start to kind of alchemize their own life. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And my favorite question is like, when was your breaking point? When did you say, this is not my reality? And it's been those moments where we call it in spirituality, like the dark nights of the soul, where you're just like, I can't take this. And usually as a soul, you kind of have to go through that in order for you to kind of like really dive into your purpose work on this planet. And they've just done so many wonderful things and have taken such beautiful steps. So I'm always in gratitude of just them sharing their story. It's not an easy story. We don't hold anything back. But I always tell them, like, by you sharing your story, you're a model of courage for somebody else that could be listening, that could be going through something very similar. So that's definitely a big piece of my work. I'm a yoga teacher with 225 plus hours. I did a training with y'all. I want to say, was that 2 years ago? Oh my God.
I think it's longer now because of the pandemic. Time stops. 2 years.
What year is it?
I don't know. I think I said to
2 years
someone, I'm
sounds right.
like, yeah, I said to like a yoga class, I'm like, hey guys, you're 2025, we're here. And I'm like, it's not even 2025. Like,
I said
like,
it was 2020 earlier today, so it's
yeah, I know. It takes me so long to write the new year out. I don't get the new year until like June when I start writing out the actual present year. I'm still stuck in the past. So,
So go back to your podcast. That sounds rad. What brought you to that? I mean, it seems like you're really drawn to this idea. What brought you to that?
Yeah, I would definitely say because I did my own soul work. So I started going to therapy, I want to say in October of last year, because, I wanted to kind of like dig deep into some things that I left very suppressed. And, with my therapist, we're doing all this work and digging in. I was like, wow, like I just feel like so free, and unleashed. And I'm like, oh, I feel so creative. And anytime that I kind of feel free and unleashed, I feel like like a really creative space. And prior to this podcast, I had co-hosted another podcast, which I loved. Unfortunately, ended prematurely, but it kind of was like we were saying, that little seed that kind of dropped in, very early. And I was like, oh, I like this kind of format, this podcast format. And I want to say it was probably, October. So around last year that I was like, you know what, I really want to come off the podcast, but I don't want to make it like, laughy, ha, ha, ha. I wanted to make it very purposeful and pointed. So I was like, yeah. And then I meditated hard. I would definitely say it was like a divine co-creation, because I didn't know how it was going to come to be. I didn't know a name. I didn't know format. I didn't know anything. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to meditate on it. And if it comes to me, great. If it doesn't, okay. I'm not anything to lose. I have everything to gain. So yeah. And I just started kind of building it out. And the pandemic was really great in the sense that I was home and I could concentrate and be super introspective. And then I wrote down this wish list of guests that I had. And, most of them were friends, and I was not expecting them to say yes. And they were like, yeah, of course. And I was just like, you're okay with talking about X? They were like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? And I was like, oh, okay. And so we did the first season. It was wonderful. But the biggest episode that was the hardest for me to do was to record my own episode.
Oh, good for you. I was going to ask if you did it. That's great. That's good.
And I recorded my episode last on purpose, because I was like, okay, let me just, get through those interviews and edit those and kind of see the format. And then I will record my own. And I knew that was going to be the hardest thing, because I've never shared my story, with a wide audience. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to be opening myself up to, not scrutiny, but just opening yourself up. And I was like, what better time in the present to do that? Because if I'm asking my guests to open up, I got to kind of come with the same thing. So that way we're on the same level of vulnerability and understanding. So, so we did that. And it's just been a really, really beautiful journey. And, and it's just nice to share that. And I think what I learned best about this whole experience is once you come with your full truth and your vulnerability, it allows a person to come in with their truth and their vulnerability, and the connection that you build with each other is like beyond this world. It's not surface, it's very deep, it's very genuine. And it's like that soul to soul connection that I will never take for granted. That's why I'm always so grateful to them, because I'm like, some people are like, oh man, I haven't even told my best friends this story. And I'm sitting, across from you telling you this story. And I'm like, yeah, we dig in here. So that's really the purpose of Open Heart Raw Stories, to be a model of courage for somebody else that could be going through something really rough. And then really to give the credit and the kudos to the guests who have gone through so much and still decided through the darkness that they were going to choose the light.
I just want to acknowledge that it is also a testament to your ability to, as you said at the very beginning, something that was important to you, but to like hold that safe, loving space to allow that to happen. I think that our culture, we really don't enjoy asking, you know, people like, can we talk like about the real stuff? And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that every time, like in a karma project or in one of our trainings, that we open the door a little bit to that and just be like, we all have our stuff. It's amazing to me how not only willing, but relieved many people are to have a space that they can share, you know, the dark side, you know, that we're a lot of the time felt we're asked to not display.
Yes.
Because like you said, if the more we all kind of disown that, the louder it starts to shake the
Oh,
gate,
yeah.
right?
And it runs the show. Your triggers and your traumas will run the show if you don't like really pay attention to them and acknowledge them. And yeah, so I'm just always like extremely grateful. I'm very excited about what season 2 is going to bring, because those
Yeah.
are, very interesting stories. And I look at them, I'm like, this is your hero's journey. This is you sharing, the guests are sharing their own, biography of their own hero's journey. And it's been tremendous to watch. It's been tremendous to like listen to them and get the permission to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell them, like, it's pre-recorded, but if we leave this conversation and you feel uncomfortable or
Yeah.
about something that you said, you let me know, because there is no way, shape, or form this is going to be an exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I'm like, if you are comfortable with saying it, I want you to be comfortable all the way through to the point that it airs. So yeah.
Has anybody ever asked you to cut a part of what they shared or redact anything?
Not yet.
Wow.
Not yet. Not yet. In fact, I got the opposite. They said I should have gone deeper into that story. And
Mm.
I was like, oh, okay. They're like,
Wow.
I should have shared more details in that piece of my
Mm.
story. And I was like, wow. Which tells me that they've done a lot of soul work prior to
Yeah.
coming on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question about it. So
Yeah, of course.
is there a similar through line, or is there like a seed that you have seen kind of across those stories of others and yourself in
Mm.
that pivot from like the dark night of the soul to like reorienting towards healing? Is there something everybody had in common somewhere along the line, or something they discovered that was similar somewhere along the line?
Yeah, I would definitely say there were a couple. So one of the big ones was that they had a support system or someone that was very supportive throughout and encouraging them throughout the
So
whole
by
thing.
support system, I feel like sometimes I say that, but I don't really know, like describe like what kind of a support system you mean when you say a support system.
Oh, yes. So a good example is I interviewed someone, and they, were going through a lot, and they had literally an aunt. It would be like an aunt. So it could be a family member, it
Mhm.
could be a friend, that was really there for them to kind of say, I'm here for you. And, even Beck, who you guys know, Beck,
Yeah.
and I think the great analogy that she said was like, when you're going through this, you may be inside the room, but your support system is right outside the door. So
Mm.
they're like allowing you the space to go through what you need to go through, but they're supporting you, just being a few feet away.
Yeah.
And kind of just giving you that space to kind of do that work, but also being there to support you. So I think that encouraged them to kind of come out of it.
Mm.
Also, I think and I totally acknowledge it from their perspective, was the fact that they saw their like potential destructive habits because it played out with like their parents.
Mm.
So they almost had like a direct blueprint of what their lives could be like, not in a good way.
Mm.
Um, and they said, I got to choose different. I don't want this reality. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to carry out the cycle. And they were constantly breaking cycles. I had a guest on the show. His name is Dr. Ryan. He had a phenomenal story. And, you know, he literally said, you know, I made the decision at a very early age, which was 12 years old, that I didn't want to be like my parents at all. I wanted to be the total opposite. I wanted to be this conscious parent. I wanted to be the parent that, you know, was there for my kids every waking moment, you know, and was there to kind of like comfort them and give them the guidance. And, you know, and it was just really, really there because he didn't have that as he was growing up. And I also felt like there was a lot of seeds where the guests had to grow up at a very early age. Like they had to be the parent themselves because their parents weren't really parenting them. So they almost had to kind of reverse role it for them. And that was tough too, because you kind of missed out on their childhood a lot of those points. So yeah, so it definitely was a support system. That was a big thing. They definitely kind of had like a view of what their lives could be like because they wanted to be the opposite of their upbringing or their environment. And they wanted to choose different, which is a hard decision to make because it's so easy to choose the familiar, right? It's so easy to choose a familiar. It's so hard, but it's courageous to choose the unfamiliar, even if you know that the unfamiliar is going to be better for you because it hasn't been navigated before other than by yourself. And so those were like some big, big moments. And yeah, it's just like, I'm in awe of every single person. I'm in awe of them because they really pick themselves up by their bootstraps. And, you know, it was funny. It's actually very funny because I've had 3 guests on the show now that have at one point in their lives lived out of their car. And 2 of them were on purpose. And the other person was not. He was like, it got to the point where I didn't want to go back home. I had a vehicle, so I'm going to live out of my car. And he had like a whole system to do that. And I think that also kind of gives a sense of like humbleness to that too. And these people are super successful, and you know, so I think it's just one of those moments where you're just like, wow, like those are the makings of someone that is really going to do some really wonderful things in the world.
Yeah.
And they're doing it now, and you're just like, whoa, like I'm blown away by it.
Amazing.
There is sort of a lot of truth to that, right? You look at all the people who we admire, and they do have that hero's journey. And it does start usually in a place of difficulty. You know, you don't often hear of like the son of a great man, you know, doing that, going on to do something great. There's some sort of a thing that person experienced, that suffering that led to something. So that's very cool that you were able to really break that down. She's got such incredible clarity.
I know.
Really, it's like we gave you the questions ahead of time or something.
No,
It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
That's why
But yeah.
since I met you, I've been like,
What is that though? What is that thing you think? What is it? Is it the rubber band effect that as you pull back and finally when it does release, it goes so much farther the farther it's been pulled? I mean, what do you think that reason is? That so many of the great artists, the people who have done so much with their lives that we all look up to in one way or another, have gone through the shit.
Yeah, I think it's like I always see like I always admire the people that have gone through stuff and still have been able to be really successful in their own right. I think and I usually don't admire the people like my life started off great and it's only getting better, and you're just like I can't relate to that. You know, I can't.
Usually a load of crap anyway.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Because I had, you know, from the outside, I could claim a very privileged, easy ride. And if I were to compare my upbringing to others, which is never a good idea, you know, we could have a conversation about that. But I know, you know, that I know that that's not. And I still haven't met one person, no matter how they appeared on the outside, who, if you don't give them a space to like really communicate what their story has been, that, you know, it's like your trauma is my Tuesday, you know, but like when it comes to like our own journeys, you know, we you know, our experience ourselves, I don't know, I never believe somebody that's like, nope, good, totally, nothing at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always like, okay.
I'm almost kind of like, Yeah, I'm almost like, ooh, you got to do some that work is gonna
Yeah.
come in really heavy, real quick. But yeah, it's just like the guess's DNA has just been because I mean they're so vast. Like, I've had musician ons, like I have two musician ons, well, one musician, one artist in season two. I've had an author for season one. Like all of them are successful in their own right. And it was just like this willpower. I can't even describe it. They just had like that willpower and determination in their DNA to say, like, this is not going to be the way my life is going to play out for me, and chose different. And it was just something that I totally felt as they were telling their story. And the fact of, I always say, and can we curse on this? I don't know if we can. Like, but for me, I'll abbreviate it. I was like, I don't want any a-holes on as guests, right?
Good.
I was a strict like a-hole policy. I'm like, I
On the
mean,
wall.
like, right, and I'm very much like, be very humble about your stuff, and luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any guests on the show that have not had a nice dose of humble sauce, in meaning they're so modest about their accomplishments, or they're so determined that they are continuing to grow, and they're like, okay, cool, I'm a success, that's great, but I have so much more to do. I have so much more to do. And yeah, and I love every single guest. And at the end of season one, I was like, I really want to give them like a small little gift, a token of my appreciation. And I gave them a journal. And my thing is like handwritten notes. I'm like so old school. I'm like, I'm just going to handwrite you a note or a card or whatever. And in the card for every single guest, I said to them, thank you for contributing to this podcast. Your story is going to change lives. Here is a token of my appreciation to continue to inspire you to continue to write your own story your way.
Love it.
Beautiful.
And I was just like, because their story's still evolving, it's still going to grow. They're going to continue. They're going to grow and evolve, and and they're doing the work. They are all really doing the work, and the awareness of these guests, the awareness of them is like out of this world.
And that's, speaking of that, that's kind of like the next question that's been brewing in my mind as I've been listening to you is taking this passion that you have for making space for these kind of stories and, knowing that it's woven with this other amazing gift and passion you have for holding space for yoga and meditation. In this space in between, the traumas we experience and the world we're living in, what to you is the place, the importance or the place of yoga and mindfulness in like seeing our world evolving forward towards whatever it is that you feel is that place that these guests and that you hope others are moving towards?
I mean, I definitely think that the introspection piece of yoga, that self-contemplation is key. And recognizing the fact that, it's like that loci, saying that we always say, like, we're not, not everyone's free until we're all free. I think, when we realize that we have more in common than you think, and that our divisiveness is something. I mean, I will tell you guys a story, and I was surprised, and I was like, this is how the world should be. I went to Guatemala back in 2015, 2016. And my friend and I had gone into a cigar shop. I don't smoke cigars. He does. Whatever. No judgment. And we were in like a smoke room. And, it was interesting because Antigua, Guatemala is a very like diverse area of Guatemala, because there's a lot of expats that come in from like Holland and Australia and whatever the case may be. So we were in the smoke room, and one of the guys, he was a guy from Ohio who was a Republican who voted for Trump. So, and we were obviously, my friend and I were like the opposite. And then we had like the owner that was kind of like, super libertarian. Like we all had different views, right? And we get into this dialogue about politics, and I'm thinking this can go so far left, right? So far left. And we had a very open dialogue about it. And we just kind of left the conversation like, okay, I respect you for your views. I may not agree with it. And we just quietly just moved on. And there wasn't any like fight towards each other's stuff. Like we understood each other's viewpoints, but there was no disrespect. There was just like, I get it. And I still recognize the human that you are there standing in front of me. And I still see you as a divine person in front of me. And I'm just like, this is how the world should be, you know? But I think that comes with like a lot of, you know, deep introspection first. I think that comes with a lot of contemplation. It's not easy work in what we do. Healing is never linear, ever. So I think it definitely starts there. And that's where like the yoga and the breath comes in. It's just sitting with yourself and just, you know, being in your own vessel in this own space. And then, you know, once you're kind of like getting in tune with yourself, allowing yourself to be revealed to the world as a whole person. And then also, you know, kind of exuding this divine spirit that you are, right? And you know, I think that's a big thing. You know, I teach yoga not for money purposes. I teach it as like my service, my karma, in order to give back, right? And to hold that space. You know, I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, I'm not there to dictate moves to you. I'm there to hold space for you so you can go on your own individual journey with the support of a community that's behind you, that are two going on their own individual journey together, right? Yeah, I even gave that analogy to a friend of mine, like when we're talking about like love and couples, which I'm, you know, so season 3, little sneak peek, season 3 is going to be love stories. So, you know, who's going to get hit up?
We do have
So
a
season
dramatic love story, so.
Season 3 is love stories. So yeah, so you'll be contacted very, very soon by myself.
Be
But,
humbled.
yes, but I always say, you know, even when you're falling in love, like it's acknowledging the fact that you yourself are a whole person, the other person is a whole person, and you guys are aligning and accepting that you guys are going to be walking your own separate journeys together.
I like that.
So,
When you speak of a beautiful world, I
know. I'm like, why can't the world be like Guatemala all the time? You know, and I'm like, there's so many things. But yeah, I think when we get to that point where, you know, we're pushing and prodding and we say hurtful things and we don't take that moment to kind of take a step back and yeah. And, you know, I always say, you know,
be tuned in enough to feel, because that is something I noticed, like during the pandemic, we've had our children home with us for a large amount of time. And it, if we didn't make that space for like alternate days for one of us to be able to go and practice a little and meditate, then I did feel like, wow, I lose that like line I have down into me where I can feel my breath getting short, or I can feel my body tightening, or like I'm not breathing into my belly. And then is when I'm like quick to respond and I'm not like breathing and my nervous system's ramped up. So like you said, to just cultivate that feeling of like, what is it that I feel like when I'm at this, you know, homeostasis level?
yes.
And I mean, that's so huge.
Well, when you go inward, you also stop looking outside of yourself all the time. And I feel like when you're scared, which many of us have been very scared of a wide variety. That's the thing, Jay. There's like a wide spectrum of things to be afraid of at the moment. Yeah. And when you're afraid, of course, just for survival, you immediately tune to the like what is happening right now and in your immediate surroundings. And I think that's absolutely dead on. We have to go back inwards, and looking inwards is allowing you to give an opportunity to respond to this, what feels like a never-ending bombardment these days. My goodness.
Yes.
The outside world is very full.
and one of my good friends who's on season 2, he's under Instagram as Source Radiance. He's so good. And he gave a whole talk about racism in America. And he said, you know, someone asked him, like, what do you think is the crux of people being racist or biased or whatever the case may be? And he gave such a cool fundamental answer. He was like, it comes down to 2 things that people feel lack of that they need: safety and significance.
Sure.
Wow.
And he's like, when people don't feel safe and they don't feel significant, they will try to conquer or like feel better than somebody else. And you can practice that safety and significance within yourself, and that's where that introspection comes in. and you
Oh,
see, and I was just like, when he said that, I was like, I just got chills. I just got chills. I just got
yeah.
chills. When he said that, I was like, damn it. I was like, damn it. That was so good. Like
Mm.
safety and significance. And when you don't feel that, and even people like go to, not going dark, but they go to hate groups because in those hate groups, they feel safe and significant.
Wow.
Even if they don't feel or don't, identify with those views because they felt a sense of belonging, even though it was false belonging,
Mm.
they felt safety and significant in it.
Oh,
And I, and I was
That's
like,
brilliant.
yeah, brilliant. He said it, and I was like, yes, yeah, I
well,
got all of that.
I know that you have given us time out of your work
I mean,
day
I could
to
go
do
for
this.
15 more minutes if you guys want. Like, I
Well,
could
Okay,
totally
well,
go.
we
take
can
the
go,
time.
we can go for a little longer. I want to give you space. I also want to
Yeah.
say that I did tell you that it was never going to be enough time anyway. We are doing like take 2 round 2 with like everybody because this is no this is exactly like we could never be finished talking to you. Like what a shame if we were
Sa-
like, check, Jennifer's done. Like that will never happen.
Same, guys. Same,
But
same, same, same.
before like we say goodbye when we do that in a few minutes, can you just take this moment to tell all the folks, including the folks like me that are like not so podcast savvy, how we could connect with you? Like where can we find you? What studios? How do we follow you? How do we like get to this podcast that you're doing and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So under my Instagram name, which is Genesis_86, I do have a link tree in there. That is where the podcast is listed. So you can listen to it on Google, Spotify, Apple, the
Awesome.
whole jam. I think it's on like 7 different carriers right now, which is pretty phenomenal. You can find me teaching at I recently added a class to Luna and Soul in Long
Awesome.
Island. Yeah, so I'll be teaching on Wednesdays at 6:30, both virtual and in person. So if you guys are international, I saw someone from Greece.
Yeah, awesome.
Tap on, and then I also teach at Revolution Yoga, which you know very well. I teach there on Sundays and on Tuesdays. And then, as an aside, I will be working on conducting a training. I'll be part of this training. I'm learning on the art of holding space so that I can properly hold space for cisgender women. And then hopefully, really lead that practice of holding space for women's circles and their healing and things of that nature. So that is what I'm like really excited about in addition to season 2 of the podcast is, getting that training because it's really important. So yeah.
Like I said, okay,
Right.
we definitely have to speak again about that
Yes.
whole wing of what you're embarking on. Amazing.
It's exciting. It's super exciting. It's all like ancestral healing. So we go real deep. We go real deep. So yeah, I'm super, super stoked about it. And yeah, and I'm just constantly trying to like, live my life in purpose, on purpose. So that's like a big thing that I'm trying to do, even if that means that I get 1 less hour of sleep a night. That's okay.
Well, no.
I know. People are like, you gotta rest. I know. Everyone's like, girl, we were talking yoga, and the crux of it is resting and relaxing. And yeah,
Would you
but
believe we started this podcast about slowing down.
yes,
letting
yes,
go, making
yes. Well, the thing is like I'm trying to also be in the space of like I need to ask for help. That's been very hard. That's part of my work too. Asking for help. Oh, and then one of my good yogi guru, he practices Kundalini yoga, and he put it in such a simple terms. Like he was like, asking for help is not weak. Asking for help is rich. He's like, Oprah can't be Oprah without help. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, you're always reframing. Just that reframe is so essential. So yeah, he's like, get comfortable with asking for help. Get real comfortable. He's like, you'd be so surprised.
Isn't it so true that I cherish moments when a friend or a family member or you or our children ask me for help. Like it never feels imposing. It's like one of the highlights, right? That I'm like, yes, like I would love to support you, however that is. It's really special, privilege. And yet somehow along the way, we kind of came to understand that it was like a sign of well, a lot of the things that we talked about at the beginning, right? Like fear that it was meaning that we weren't good enough or strong enough to do it on our own, or that we were failing, or that we weren't enough. But now that you've said it and I'm thinking about it, like it's a gift to ask somebody for help. It's a gift to them.
Yes, yes. And like, you know, I always used to say this too. And again, everything's part of work, right? Anything that you have a hard thing doing, that's your work on this planet, I feel like. So I'm impatient. So I keep getting opportunities that force me to practice patience. Right?
That's
You're
what
like,
podcast is. It'll just keep arriving in
right,
for different guises.
right. Now you're just like, I'm not patient. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm going to give you an opportunity where you have to practice waiting. And you're just like, damn it. You know, it's just like all the time. But I used to, you know, coming back from the help, like I too, like any person that would ask me for help, I would do it immediately. I would drop everything.
Yeah.
And my logic back in the day was like, you know, I could get myself back to an equilibrium on my own. And I was like, but I'm not too sure if everyone else can on their own. So that's why I would like go and get help. But in the flip side, I was totally wrong, because I was just like pushing down and suppressing a lot of that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, so, you know, just remind yourself, like asking for help is not a form of weakness. It's a form of like, you know, having that richness and abundance in your life. And you'd be very surprised who is like, people are willing to help more than you think.
Definitely.
More than you think. So I'm very blessed to have those people that remind me of those things.
Oh my gosh. Just to recap, the last 4 minutes, finding safety and significance within ourselves so that we do create love and not harm in the world, and asking for help is something that's a form of abundance and is a gift to the people you ask for. And that's just 4 minutes. Jennifer, we love you so
This was
much.
really wonderful. Thank you
I
so
know.
much.
I can't.
Joy.
You guys are so awesome, and it's so funny because like we started off kind of on the flip side back in the day where I interviewed
before
you
you
guys.
popped in, I was like, when we met her, she interviewed us. And what a joy for us to put you on the hot seat and hear all your brilliance pour out of your beautiful body. Amazing.
Yes, and I look forward to you guys being on season 3. It's going to be all love stories, which I'm so excited about. And yeah, I'm, you know, I have to like bring some heat for that one because it's a different format, but I'm excited about it because I think, you know, that's a big thing to talk about, you know, how do you sustain coupledom and still kind of, you know, maintain your sovereignty as an individual walking this planet, but also being a partner to your partner, to your chosen soul partner, you know, and that's like an interesting walk and dichotomy in that. And also, you know, as you mature and get older, you know, also giving space to your partner to evolve, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing too. Someone told me that, like, they were like the real success in their marriage. They've been married for like 30 years was like, I gave space to my spouse to evolve and change. Because if I kept thinking that she was going to be the same person that I met at 28 and she's 60 something now, you know, I would feel like disappointed. He's like, I gave her and allowed for her to have that space to evolve, and she does for me. And she's like, we just evolved into better people. And that's what makes our marriage so successful. And I was like,
makes a lot of sense.
I cannot wait. I know I'm not alone here in saying I'm going to subscribe right now and listen to the first season, be so excited for the second season and all there is to come. Thank you for the care that you take for the humans that you know, how you lift people up. I've watched you do it for our organization, and I've watched you do it in your own way. It's very special, and your connection to your passion for yourself reflected in others is like it actually like comes out of the digital device. Don't you feel that about
I do very much.
Like even like it's so vibrant, and I'm so grateful, I know we both are, to know you and to have spent this hour with you and for all of the times to come. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, guys. And again, like I'm so appreciative of you guys and what you guys are doing with United We Own, and just to kind of watch your trajectory and grow. And you guys are really doing some beautiful work in the country and internationally as
Doing it with us.
well.
So
And we're
Still evolving,
yes.
still coming along, as you said. So
Yeah,
thank
but you guys are
really.
just doing so much great work, and you guys are affecting lives like no other. And yeah, I mean, you guys are really doing divine's work on this planet, and you guys should be so proud of yourselves. And I always say, like, this will probably like make me cry, but I don't want to go off on a tear, but it's fine. But your past selves are so proud of you, and your future selves are rooting for you.
Oh, I love that.
Let's
That's a
all
wonderful
take
way.
that.
Yeah.
You're just like
that.
that like made me cry the other day. It was like your past self is so proud of you, and your future self is rooting for you. How?
Mm.
It's great.
Yes. Yes. Yes, universe. Yes, you are here.
that makes you feel both supported and significant.
Yes.
Exactly.
That thought, safe.
Supported, safe, significant.
This was
To
super.
be continued.
And I really
We can't say goodbye,
and
obviously.
thank you so much. I know you got to go, but this is wonderful, and thank you for being so generous with your time and your clarity and your compassion. We're really grateful.
Yes, and
I'm
thank
so
you
grateful.
everyone who is here in this moment or watching in your own moment, whenever that is. We love you.
Yes, an open heart raw story. You can check it out in the link in my bio under my Instagram. And yeah, you can always send me a DM as well. And if there's any people that are listening that want to share their story as well, I am always looking for guests. So feel free to direct message me, and we can totally have a conversation once you're ready to share your story. So that's a big thing too. So huge call to action for that.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Beautiful. Have a wonderful
Have a beautiful day, Jennifer. It's great to talk to you.
Take care, guys.
Be
Thank
well.
you guys so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.